Uploading.
Slavery, concentration camps, interstellar wars. We have nothing in our past that approaches that kind of barbarism. You see, we're nothing like you. We're better.
When people discuss organizations in science fiction, they often say that good is stupid. While this can be hyperbolic, it does push the point that good makes a lot of dumb decisions. But in my honest opinion, both good and evil are pretty stupid, especially in the Trek universe. It's actually those that are morally gray that are the smartest of them all. Let's just get into it. The Ferengi Alliance is a government headed by the Ferengi and oversaw the advancement of quote-unquote laissez-faire capitalism. Keep that in the back of your mind, we'll get back to it in a bit. They also saw the advancement of Ferengi wealth and power. Regardless of which era of Ferengi you look at, from the Next Generation to Deep Space Nine and everything else, the Ferengi government is highly corrupt and is the worst aspects of capitalism. At least that's what everyone says. I think they're wrong. Yes, even the famed wiki you're about to put in the comments below, it's wrong. Perhaps it is the case that the Ferengi are a corrupt organization, or perhaps they're just playing the game so well that everyone thinks that. When analyzing the Ferengi from the 22nd century into the mid to early 24th century, the Ferengi come off as rather bumbling. It isn't until the late 24th century that they seem more intelligent. Initially, the Ferengi don't appear all that interested in self-preservation or galactic affairs. They don't even realize when their lives are arguably in trouble. Quite a few fans will say that the Ferengi are absolute idiots in the Next Generation and become more intelligent in Deep Space Nine. I think that's flawed. There are a couple of problems with thinking that the Ferengi are bumbling idiots in the 22nd, 23rd, and early 24th century.
I am detecting transporter signatures in 3 cargo bays. We are being boarded, sir.
Initiate intruder alert. All security teams report to...
Put down your weapons!
Firstly, if the Ferengi consist of mostly imbeciles, then they get really, really lucky when dealing with the flagship of the United Federation of Planets, especially early on in the various confrontations that they have. It's either luck or the senior staff of said flagship are stupider than the Ferengi are. So I guess you can choose whatever poison you want to on that. Second, whether you think it is a good or bad economic theory, most will agree that a capitalistic economy that basically dominates the galaxy with a specific currency that all governments, be they socialistic, fascistic, capitalistic, or otherwise, use is not something that a really stupid government could pull off and continue to propagate. And on that topic, remember the laissez-faire aspect? The Ferengi have a lot of oversight for a capitalistic nation that is laissez-faire. But again, we'll talk about that a bit later. And to take it to the next step, I would go on to say that there is a near zero chance that both of these things can be true and that the Ferengi are just idiots. The fact is, I think the Ferengi Alliance probably has some of the most advanced and intelligent individuals in the galaxy, and they're just playing the Alpha and Beta Quadrant for fools. Ironically, the answer for why they would decide to go this route is answered in Lower Decks.
And the Packless, well, the Packless murdered the entire crew of the Solvang because everyone assumed they were a joke.
Yeah, well, that's Starfleet, good at observing and bad at maintaining.
We know the Ferengi Alliance has technology that is on par with the Federation. In a straight matchup, they can likely go toe-to-toe with them. However, it's important to remember that while war is good for business, that war needs to be further and further away from your own borders for it to be really good. An armed conflict with the Ferengi included isn't preferable for anyone. However, the ideology of the various powers, arguably some of them superpowers, of the Alpha and Beta quadrants are so vast and hostile to capitalism that you aren't exactly going to have an equitable merger or conversation. So, what is one to do? Well, I honestly think that the Ferengi decided to take a lesson from Sun Tzu.
Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. If your enemy is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. If your opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him.
At almost all points of the interactions between the United Federation of Planets and the Ferengi Alliance, save for the Dominion War, the Federation appears to either be irritated with the Alliance or they don't take them seriously. The attitudes of the Federation are even so pronounced that commanders and captains find Ferengi to be abominable that they just don't get along with them. They believe that the Ferengi are so different and so far below them as to not consider them worthy of anything. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if most officers compared a Ferengi to a Pakled. However, when we look at the actions of the Ferengi, their galactic movements seem anything but unintelligent. As I've stated, the Ferengi have created and basically streamlined the use of the galactic currency. Gold Press Latinum is utilized to some degree by the Federation, Romulan Star Empire, and even the Klingons. They are able to keep up technologically with their allies and enemies. Even the Federation, which again has Starfleet engineers that can turn rocks into replicators. And even though you could argue that they are a significant threat, they are left largely alone. The real question, for me at least, comes down to, are the Ferengi that encounter the Enterprise acting under orders, or is Zek sending out the less than intelligent ones to form the bulk of the interactions with the Federation and other empires? My initial belief was that everything was an act, that the officers were just pretending to be stupid, that any Ferengi that interacts with the Federation are doing it all for show. However, there are some scenes that seem to countermand this. I'm reminded of a crucial interaction between Jake and Nog, the point where Nog can't read. We also see an initial resistance to Nog being put in school by his father. Now, this isn't definitive. It could be that Quark and Rom are just the Ferengi version of yokels that are little more than earlobed trash, but given some of the things they discuss about the perceived internal workings of the Ferengi Alliance, I find it likely that a lot of the Ferengi Zek sends out aren't all that smart, that he keeps the intellectual ones near him, and that an entire system is created to keep those that are less inclined to intelligence in line, or at least not as educated, to ensure that the fringes and the borders stay patriotic. Now, I'll admit this is a bit of a gamble, but it seems to be one that works out. And another piece that I think is strong evidence is that, well, remember we were talking about how it's supposed to be laissez-faire? Well, we know there are several entities that specifically guide how operations of Ferengi are to be conducted. The Ferengi Commerce Authority is one example of this. If we assume that the Ferengi on the fringes aren't considered the brightest colors in the crayon box, then they would need some oversight and something to guide them, perhaps like the rules of acquisition. Ferenginar does not engage in laissez-faire capitalism. It may engage something near it, but it isn't it. And honestly, there has to be a reason for that. I've discussed it before, but the genius of the Ferengi's capitalistic system can be seen in conversations between Quark and the Maquis Vulcan. I won't go too far into it, I'll just link the video below, you guys can take a look at that breakdown. Ferengi know how to manipulate the system, even when the system is different from their own. And we can even look at the neutrality in the Dominion War, initially allowing for negotiations with both the Federation Alliance and the Dominion. This would be a boon for Starfleet when the Ferengi join the Alliance, and possibly are even able to give information that the Dominion had accidentally let slip. In the end, the Ferengi don't appear to play a massive role in galactic events, but that's exactly what a smart government and organization would do. They stay in the shadows and just help things along, not playing center stage. But these are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below, and never forget, people, all of our lives are a story. Make yours a good one.